Hello and welcome back to yet another Trove video on the channel. It is LateCom here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the best methods of progression that you should be using at your specific mastery rank range to progress in the game, ranging from 0 all the way up to 800 total mastery rank and beyond. This video will assume that you're working on building your classes alongside this mastery grind and that you have a decent knowledge on how to farm Flux. I'll be linking some guides on how to increase your power rank and methods to farm Flux in the game down in the descriptions below, so make sure to check them out before watching this video if you aren't really clear on those topics. With that being said, let's begin with the video. Starting off at the very beginning, we have got none other than the beginner's phase, where I'd like to say ranges from 0 to 250 total mastery, where you've pretty much just downloaded the game not too long ago and are working on learning the fundamentals of the game. Of course, first things first, you should be working on obtaining all of the items from the shadowy market located in the Shadow Tower entrance portal, with the Titan Souls, Lunar Souls, and the Spoiled Divinity that you get from doing delves every single week. While you're working on this, try to buy cheap items in the marketplace that offer decent mastery. Stuff that I'd recommend you guys to buy as starters would probably be the cheap Trove of Wonder mounts such as Kabiri, Hadori, Illyri, or Royal Tortoise, the adventure allies that cost a couple hundred Flux a piece, and other cheap items that you can find in the marketplace. Just make sure to check the hide collected and sort by unit price boxes to see what items you're missing that are able to grant you mastery. At the same time, you should make sure that you're doing all of your hourly challenges to obtain as many dragon coins as possible to craft your first few dragons as you progress, as craftable dragons gives you 250 total mastery points each, and I'd recommend you to begin with the Panettier dragon before moving on to more difficult dragons to craft. Other forms of easy mastery at this point would be the Delve allies that are craftable in the Delve workbench, which allows you to increase both your Trove and Geode mastery rank simultaneously when you obtain them. You should also try to craft all of your classes with the exception of the Vanguardian and Bard, as they will be a good investment through time as you level them up for additional mastery points. Don't forget that you'll also be getting 75 mastery points each time you rank up a tier in the rune crafting and ring crafting benches, so try to avoid buying those block recipes in the marketplace and craft them on your own, since that will help with increasing your skill level in the rune crafting bench. You can farm the biome recipes on your own if you'd like, but if you've got the Flux to buy them off the marketplace, feel free to do so. I recommend you to buy all biome recipes except Neon City, as you'll probably need to farm the recipe dungeons in Neon City as a viable Flux farming method as a newer player, so why not learn the recipes and sell the scrap cases, right? Moving on, we're now in the early game phase, which in my opinion will range from 250 to 400 total mastery, where you're beginning to understand most of the features and aspects of the game. The first thing that I'd recommend you guys to focus on at this point are the Dragon Ascension badges. Not only do they grant you a ton of mastery by completing each and every Dragon Ascension badge, they will also grant you some good stat buffs at the same time. At this point, you could try buying out each and every mount or wings that you don't have up to a price of around 100,000 Flux, and begin to craft mounts in the mount taming bench based on the most cost-effective mount available for you at that time. I would also recommend you guys to start leveling some of your classes to level 20 at least, because don't forget that each level grants you 15 mastery points, whereas milestones such as level 20 or 30 grants you 125 and 200 points respectively, an additional 35 mastery points for the costumes that come at those milestones. Other than that, you should also begin working on Geode related content at this point, such as leveling up your Geode modules and crafting several Geode tomes available in the Christology workbench. I'd say by the end of this phase, you should be sitting at around 50 Geode mastery and 350 Trove mastery, and I would recommend you to start working on Geode as early as possible to expand your range of Flux farming methods to include Geode cave runs, because one of the most important factors for quick progression on mastery in Trove is efficient Flux farming. If you're interested in a more in-depth Geode mastery guide, I've linked one down in the description below, so feel free to check it out. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that you should work on finishing all of the mounts, allies, and auras available from the Club Merchant Prince NPC in clubs with the Club Merchant fixture available. You should be farming your adventures daily for Adventurine, and once you've finished obtaining all the items in the merchant, work on buying the Tempest and Blocktron egg fragments to craft your next dragons. Next up, we've got the early to mid-game phase, where this will range from 400 to 550 total mastery. At this point, you should try getting all of your classes to at least level 20 and work on maxing out your geode modules. Try to obtain all of the mounts in the Crystologist tier in the Crystology workbench and raise your geode mastery to 100 in this phase by starting with obtaining all common and uncommon companions, and if you're lucky, perhaps a rare or two. The reason why it is so important to work on geode is because you'll be able to increase both your Trove and geode mastery when obtaining new items. You should also ensure that you're collecting all the free obtainable items from new events in the game, such as craftable event exclusive mounts, allies, and so on and so forth. You may begin crafting items from the overclocked resistor workbench, such as the tomes, but the main focus of this part of your progression will be on geode. Once you're done with the Crystologist tier, move on to the Geomancer tier and craft some of the costumes available. I would also recommend you guys to start joining in 5-star farms in Geode topside to farm for crystalline cores for the items in the Lithologist tier of the workbench and leveling up your classes at the same time. It's quite a nice way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and it helps with making your progression more efficient. You should also finish purchasing all of the items that cost cubits in the store, such as wings, emblems, flask, and the dragon coin tome. Coming in next is the mid-game phase, ranging from 550 to 700 total mastery. Progression at this stage begins to slow down, and if I'm going to be blatantly honest, this is the point where most players give up due to the unwillingness to grind. First things first, you should almost be finished with the Mount Taming and Crystology workbench, except for probably the Bard Manchologist tier. You should also be working towards completing all of your dragons, and by this point, you should already be done with the Dragon Ascension badges. This point is also where I would recommend you guys to max out all of your classes at level 30 and start contemplating on buying certain event exclusive packs based off of the amount of mastery that you'd be obtaining for the credits you spend. You can also start crafting the mounts, wings, and costumes found in the Chaos Core Crafter, and I recommend you guys to begin as early on as possible as long as you have Chaos Cores available to craft the mounts. Work on purchasing all of the available mounts, wings, costumes, and boats in the marketplace up till at least 500,000 flux each, and start completing your badges such as the Shadow Hydraken and Darknig Dreadnought badges, and possibly even the gardening badges while you're gardening for flux. From here on out is where the so-called fun begins, the early endgame phase. This range goes from 700 to 800 total mastery, where you'll probably question your life decisions at this point based on the time you spent in the game. Nevertheless, at this stage, you should be working on completing your Chaos Core Crafter as well as the Overclocked Resistor workbench, while spending flux on buying credit pouches to work on buying all of the costumes and items located in the styles section of the store. You're probably also going to have to make sure you buy every single pack when a new event is out, basically turning yourself into a slave of the game. Work on completing the last remaining dragons you were missing, such as the dreaded Starfire or Hex Dragon, and buy every single class pack in the store for the sake of mastery. To sum up the endgame phase, you're gonna have to dump a ton of flux to progress at this point. Mastery has become more expensive than ever, and your sources of mastery is slowly but surely drying up as you progress. The only thing left in the marketplace for you at this point would be mounts and items costing millions of flux, and from here on out is where flux plays a pivotal role in financing your progression. If you have any badges at all left to be completed other than the loyalty badge, finish it. Fishing badge, slave away to fish up 15,000 fishes for a juicy reward of only 100 mastery points. This is pretty much the essence of endgame gameplay in Trove, which is, to be honest, pretty saddening, if you ask me. Now, you might be wondering what even lies further ahead. Well, of course, it's the true endgame phase where you're above 800 total mastery, contemplating what you've done for the past few years to get to this point. Pretty much, you should already know what you're missing out on right now, because you should already have a substantial amount of knowledge about the game at this point. But, you know, let me just still state the obvious for you. At this point, you should be working on finishing up your mementos that you were dreading to farm, buy the delve mounts that cost millions upon millions of flux to buy, such as the esteemed Lunar Eclipsia, and log on something like every 2 weeks on Friday to check back on Luxian to see whether he brings any mounts that you're missing. Oh, I forgot to mention one important thing, which is going to be none other than banner farming. Pretty much, if you're done with everything else that I've said in this video, then join me in this torturous journey to obtaining all of the banner styles that grants 1 measly mastery point each, totaling up to over 300,000 free-range electrolytic crystals to complete. Yep, that's just how it is at this point. So, with all that being said, we've pretty much just covered all of the main points of progressing from 0 to 800 total mastery rank and beyond. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned a thing or two from it, and I wish you guys all the best in your mastery grind from here on out. Thank you guys so much for watching, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys sometime soon. As usual, peace out.